Hello and welcome to a milestone episode, number 200 of Sutton Impact Family Style. If you can believe it, Dad. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and 200, and it's been a lot of fun for us.
I
So
really,
200 is technically almost 4 years.
yeah,
So that's amazing. First of all, it's amazing I would do anything for 4 years. So, I mean, that's amazing in itself. And we've always had fun doing this. It's a good conversation that we get to have as father-son and share the things that we think. So let's start off sharing the miserable experience we had last Sunday watching the Steelers.
I think, from torturing myself and watching every Fox Sports, ESPN talking head, Bleacher Report talking head, and, listening to other players that used to play, they said, they knew the game was over from that opening snap. And that they've never seen a quarter go like that, where a team is just falls apart down 28-0 in a playoff game.
It was 28-0 before I even blinked.
Yeah.
And I just sat there, and it's like, it's the proverbial train wreck that you can't turn away from.
No.
And I watched it all till I didn't see the last Steelers touchdown, the most meaningless one. So I watched till the last 3 minutes.
Well, if anyone didn't see it, Steelers get the kickoff at the 25-yard line, and Marquise Pouncey had to snap that. And Ben Roethlisberger is 6'5", and he probably put that ball. It was like 8.5, 9 feet, and it flew over his head. And it was just insane. I mean, from that moment on, you were just like, oh my goodness, you could not ask for a worse start. And then for some reason, Roethlisberger and James Conner stood around the ball like it was a grenade about to go off, and they were trying to debate which one was going to jump on it. And eventually the Browns did for a touchdown. So it was
And I have to tell you, I had images of the Chicago Black Sox. Because I couldn't imagine, the gambler says, well, give me something, do something so I know the fix is on. And the first play of the game, you hike it over a 6'5" quarterback's head. That was interesting for me. And I watched the total meltdown, just like I watched it in the movie 8 Men Out. And I watched them just put it until you couldn't do anything about it. So I don't know. I had some bad vibes. I realized these guys get a lot of money. It would take a lot of money to fix the game, but I'm just saying, I didn't like it.
And I know people debate whether or not he's deserving of it, but Marquise Pouncey once again made the Pro Bowl. I mean, he's a 10, 12-year vet on the Steelers that's been, to the Pro Bowl probably like 9 or 10 seasons. And again, if you listen to PFF, they don't really feel like he deserves to be there, but it just
I don't think he deserves to be there.
It just didn't seem like a professional football player play. And again, everybody makes mistakes, but like where this snap went, you would have thought he was trying to get it back to a punter that was behind him.
I thought he was trying to get to the guy in the first row.
Yeah, it was just. And Roethlisberger went on to throw 4 touchdowns, and Tomlin made another one of those. Pittsburgh, whether it was a legitimate comeback or it was the Browns were up so big that they just sort of let the foot off the gas, but there was a play late in the second half. They were down 13, I think, and it was a 4th and 1. And, forget PFF and analytics saying you always go for it on 4th and 1 in the opposing team's territory, but it seemed like for once if the Steelers were going to come back, they needed to get that first down. And they took a delay of game and penalty and punted, which just sort of killed the momentum, I think.
And when you punt like that, it sends a message.
It does.
Because you don't have the confidence in your team.
And
they went down and scored, and that was it. I mean, it was bad. It was painful. But it's been painful for the last 6 weeks.
It has.
And I think I said one time on the show when we were 11-1 after we lost to the Redskins, I said I thought they would lose the rest of the games and the first round of the playoffs.
And you weren't far off.
I wasn't far off. They played one good half during that time and beat the Colts.
Yeah. And again, if you look at, not just look statistically, but just the eye test, it wasn't the greatest 11-1. I mean, as a Steeler fan that thought they were washed, you couldn't help but get caught up in the 11-0 movement and, well, maybe this team's just got a magic to them. And you kind of kept waiting because the defense was playing really well even after the injuries. And it's hard not to look at the talent that they have on offense at certain positions thinking it's going to click. One of these games it's going to click and they're going to hang 40 on somebody, which normally if you're 11-0, you do at some point. But they had trouble cracking like 24 most games. And,
that was an overrated 11-0. I was excited about it.
Yeah.
But they won games they probably shouldn't have won that 11-0. They had a couple of dominant
Yeah.
That was a dominant performance. But then when they beat the Cowboys, who were mediocre, that was a lucky performance. It's a bad thing. But enough Steeler whining. We'll move on. Last week on the show, I think we both predicted a Buffalo Green Bay Super Bowl. And yesterday, Green Bay looked unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
On both sides of the ball.
And, I mean, what's his face? Lazard, who caught one long touchdown, dropped another one that easily could have been there. Aaron Rodgers looked masterful. And I know Aaron Donald was not there and wasn't healthy, and that Cooper Kupp wasn't there on the other side, but he just looks so good in the pocket, throwing the ball, like flinging it around the yard. And Devontae Adams is uncoverable.
And then Diggs in the Buffalo game is uncoverable.
He is.
And very impressive on defense yesterday, which I didn't think I was going to see. And, they had a great defensive scheme, and again, they forced the Ravens into not doing what they wanted to do. Although the first possession, the Ravens went right down the field running the ball. But then, how many times do you think you're going to see the Ravens kicker miss 2 field goals?
Not very often. I mean, the Bills missed a field goal, too. It wasn't a kicking clinic, but it was very windy, as we talked about off the air.
Yeah.
And that affected some of the passing. Yeah. I would say the one thing I'd worry about if I was Buffalo, like I forget what Zach Moss's situation is moving forward, but outside of Josh Allen running when, a play breaks down, like the running game does not look very effective.
It's not. I mean, they're going to throw the ball. That's what they're going to do.
That's what they're going to do.
Even their running game is throwing short pass.
It is, and I'm sure they're a little bit more well-equipped than the Steelers were to do that, but you would like to see a little bit more balance. And Zach Moss was sort of, the rookie out of Utah, was sort of providing that these last 5 or 6 weeks, and it looked like, they gave him a little bit, just so you had to be a little more aware of it,
So like we said, yesterday we were chalk on our predictions. Today you could see the possibility of it's awful hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year.
It is.
And Buccaneers are really playing effectively and playing really well right now. They've incorporated Antonio Brown into the offense. They've got even more weapons now. Brady's playing better. I think he's thrown 12 touchdowns and 1 pick in his last 4 or 5 games.
Well, they've been doing a couple things.
As a team.
Yeah. Well, Rob Gronkowski has been staying in much longer to block. And Rob Gronkowski, besides being one of the greatest football players and clearly the greatest tight end I've ever seen in my lifetime, is a real tight end. You can put him at the end of a line, and he can block for you. And that's really helped the passing game and the running game. And, and people forget Antonio Brown had 17 months off of football. And he didn't look like himself for the beginning of the year, but it looks like he's Antonio Brown again. And now if you have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown, that's the team you were afraid of. And they finally slowly becoming that team. And like I said, the little adjustments, like keeping Gronkowski in to block more often and, finally getting Fournette and some of those running backs going. And Brady
Could be the starting running back today.
Yeah.
And they've had decent defense all year, so we'll see.
And
You're going up against Drew Brees, you're going up against Alvin Kamara, you're going up against Michael Thomas, you're going up against a really good team and a very tough place to play.
Normally.
How many fans are they going to have in New Orleans today?
I don't think hardly any. And that's the thing. Like, you and I have both been to a game in that Superdome, and it's up there for the loudest place I've ever been in my life. And
it's deafening.
That's not going to be the case today, no matter, if it's...
It's not going to be the case. And although it was pretty loud in Buffalo last night with 6,700 fans.
It was.
So it's an outdoor stadium. So let's see what happens. But, I don't think we're going to have chalk. I don't think we're going to have chalk today. I think either that's going to be the upset or, why not Cleveland?
That's what Cleveland is saying. I mean, as we pointed out...
They had 2 weeks off now.
Yeah.
And Cleveland believes in themselves, especially after the ease in which they won that game last week.
Right.
So I think, and that was a monkey to get off their back. So we'll have to see. I think both of these games today could go the way of the upset.
They could.
And if it does, you're already talking about whoever wins in the NFC has to go to Green Bay. And then if whoever wins the NFC now has to go to Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
That weather's awfully unpredictable. predictable around January 20, whatever it's going to be.
I think if we do get, if Cleveland loses tonight and we get Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, in some form of either Brady or Breeze, if you were to talk about, the narrative of the season, those 5 players were talked about as much as any 5 players in the football. And
Agreed.
it would almost be like I said, the NFC South game happening in New Orleans today, like either one of those teams, if you're the NFL and you're going to get Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, who's slowly becoming a star, along with either Brady or Breeze, you're just loving life because that's about as good as you can possibly ask for.
Totally. And you get the Buffalo story of Bill's Mafia at 25 years, never won a Super Bowl, even though they played in 4 consecutive Super Bowls. That's a nice storyline.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers coming to play a home play NFC Championship game at home for the first time. And the way he's playing, probably probable league MVP. That's a good story. Like either the Breeze or the Brady story. Age and talent is a really good story. And if it happens to be Cleveland, that's your underdog story. So you got it all.
Yeah. And again, you obviously saw the meme of Brady and Breeze with gray hair playing on the History Channel, right?
No, I didn't see that yet, but it sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty fitting. Like they both have big gray beards, and it's like the History Channel presents, Brady Breeze.
I'll have to check that out. Was that on? Was that Twitter?
That was on Twitter, yeah. And I don't want to give credit where credit's not due, but I thought somebody told me that the meme actually, it was birthed by Brady and Brady's team was the people that put that out. So, sort of showing that he's got that sort of, not him, but his team, whether it's him or his, obviously staff of people that works for him, who knows. But that's pretty cool either way.
I think it's pretty funny. All right, so we got our NFL covered. Let's talk NBA. Big trade.
I mean, we knew it was coming.
Yeah, and after he threw everybody on the team under the bus, it was absolutely going to happen.
Yeah, and obviously, we're 200 episodes in, and I don't think collectively we've said a lot of nice things about James Harden over the years. So before we talk too much about the trade, I will say he is one of the greatest scorers I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
And he gets that, and, I mean, he puts up numbers like crazy. But what he did, and I think Shaq talked about it too, was just when he says he gave everything to that city, I don't think that's true. The city gave everything to him. They built an offense around him where he had the ball in his hand with the highest usage rate in NBA history. He wanted Dwight Howard, he got Dwight Howard, as Shaq said. He wanted some shooters, he got shooters. He wanted Chris Paul, he got Chris Paul. He wanted his buddy from playing Little League, Westbrook, he got Westbrook. And then you hear stories, like Chris Paul said, he's just standing around when we're running offense and he's not involved in the play. And you can see that when you watch the games. And then Russell Westbrook said, it's one thing to, he doesn't, everything revolves around James' schedule. You stay an extra day because he wants to go to a club. You leave a day early because he's got friends out there. The meetings don't start on time because he doesn't get there on time. And I don't think he gave all he could. Now, I've heard that the new owner is a pretty terrible owner, but it still just doesn't feel like the fans deserve what they got from him. And, I don't know.
Well, you and I talked about if we put those 3 together, that it was going to be a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
It could make something great, or it could make something a disaster. And Kyrie looks like he's a bigger problem than James Harden.
Potentially, certainly.
Yeah. And as much as I've never been a James Harden fan, I've never been a Kyrie Irving fan. So
no.
Jury's out for me.
But I mean, as people have pointed out, yeah, the one James Harden's biggest flaw obviously has been, the other thing I didn't mention, the negative about James Harden is terrible numbers in closing games of the playoffs. And the best playoff moment they had was when you were on the bench and Josh Smith, for some reason, was the best player on the floor. But now you don't have to be the guy at the end of the game. You only have to play 40 minutes, and then Kevin Durant can be the guy at the end of the game. So that sort of covers up his flaw. But the other thing people have pointed out, you lost a lot of depth. You lost a really nice player in Jared Allen. You lost LeVert. You lost a couple of other guys. I mean, draft compensation and pick swaps, that's in the future, and who really cares? But who's playing defense on this team? And when you play the 76ers, who's guarding Joel Embiid? And more importantly, when you play the Lakers, who's guarding LeBron and Anthony Davis? Because as great as Kevin Durant looks, he is coming off an incredibly huge surgery. And as good as he can be on defense, I mean, I don't think he can stop, Embiid, AD, or LeBron.
No, I don't see that. I don't see them as a challenge to the Lakers at all.
No.
In fact, I don't know if I see anybody as a challenge to the Lakers right now. They reloaded. They added a little bit of talent. Who knows? Rondo might end up back there for the playoffs again. You never know.
You never know. But yeah, Schroeder looks good. People forget, they were mad about Montrez last year, about how he looked in the playoffs, but they were mainly mad about how he looked against Anthony Davis. And essentially the people you can't play Montrez against are Jokic and Anthony Davis, and then eventually Joel Embiid. But on the Lakers, he doesn't have to play against those guys.
Yeah.
And
so I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to be in the finals, and then we'll have to see because we're going to be there. Don't know.
Well, Giannis.
We're going to be there. Don't know.
Yeah, Giannis looks phenomenal. Joel Embiid is playing like an MVP right now. Boston is still pretty good, and if Kemba Walker comes back, they're a whole different team to reckon with. And there's probably one or two more dominoes to fall. Like, is Bradley Beal going to be a Wizard by the end of the year? Or Washington professional basketball team, whatever they are.
Yeah, don't know.
Because I actually watched the entire Lakers-Pelicans game. And the Pelicans, obviously, a young, talented team. They jumped out on the Lakers. They were up by 20 early in the game. And besides that, you've got, Brandon Ingram and Ball. You've got all these guys that the Lakers traded away, which I'm sure, as much as people say you don't need extra motivation in sports, I'm sure that's a little extra motivation,
Oh, I'm sure that was extra motivation, yeah.
And the Lakers just destroyed them. Just absolutely destroyed them because they're just so deep and they're so good. And even like that second or third year player they have, I keep forgetting his name. He's got like a hyphenated last name. That guy looks really good. And that's just like a hidden gem the Lakers just had sitting around. So,
yeah. The NBA's got a lot of stars. I mean, the guy you like in Oklahoma City with the hyphenated name.
Yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah, I mean, they were down 10 points with a minute and a half to go, and they won.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
It was.
So, I mean, there's a lot of talent out there. I just don't see... It's going to be tough to knock off the Lakers.
It is. And Brooklyn seems like one of those teams they're going to have to win by, all three of those guys. I mean, first off, we don't know what Kyrie's situation is, whether he says he's coming back and now he's got to sit out for COVID reasons, things along those lines. And, if all three of those guys are hitting shots for one series in a row, they will be tough to deal with. But I just think defensively, and they have no size, no size whatsoever.
It's going to be a test for Kevin Durant as a leader, is what I think.
Yes.
Because Kevin Durant's played on some very good teams. He's won championships, and he knows what it's like to be part of a team where everybody's pulling together and playing, right?
Right.
Now you're putting him with two of the more selfish players in the NBA. It's going to be interesting, like I said.
And I think, from a hockey standpoint, if you could make a line where, I don't think ego-wise either one of those guys could do it. But if they were your starting five and your closing five, but for most of the, halfway through the first quarter through halfway through the fourth quarter, it was only, it was basically either, two of those guys on the floor, and one of them was basically by himself. It's sort of like, a way overqualified six man, but leading the offense for the bench guys, especially given the way that you got rid of LeVert and Jared Allen and some of the other people, that would probably be the best way to play, I think.
That's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to hopefully we won't have as many cancellations as we've had lately.
No, and you've seen everybody basically say that they hated the bubble and they're not going back.
No.
Even LeBron, I mean,
They've seen the NFL get through a season canceling games and rescheduling games, and that's what they're going to be. That's going to be their norm now.
Yeah.
That's going to be what they did.
It would be interesting what comes playoff time if they can do, maybe like a 4-region, playoff bubble, where when you're done, you go home, but, whatever, if it's
speaking of bubbles, we got the NCAA tournament taking place in Indianapolis.
Yes.
In the surrounding area. But we've had a lot of college basketball cancellations.
So many.
And it looks like, I don't know, if teams are going to get to 20 games, let alone 20 wins.
No, I don't think that's happening. I just can't imagine it.
I'm watching it. I'm curious. I feel for these young guys. But, Kim Mulkey might have said it best when she said, nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about the players. They need to have March Madness. They're going to have it. It's all by the almighty dollar. They're going to force it to happen. And that's what's going to happen. And she's probably not wrong.
I don't think she's wrong at all. And it'll be interesting to see how many people opt out of the tournament. Like, if you're going in the draft and you're, one of those lottery picks, like, do you want to put like I said, COVID affects people differently, and, some people are still suffering from it. Like, would you want to put yourself in a position that close to the end of your career in a March Madness that, might just be a disaster? And because I think, you saw with...
We're going to have to watch.
Yeah, you saw with college football.
We're through January, so we're about 2 months out from March Madness.
Yeah. But with college football, there was no stigma from teams and coaches if you opted out. There was almost a stigma on Jalen Waddle for playing in the championship game this year.
Yeah, because he came back and he did not look like he was a shadow of himself.
A shadow of himself.
Looked like he should not have been playing. But he wanted to play. He wanted to be part of that national championship. So, I understand it. I would want to be there in street clothes if I had any chance, even if I could only be in for a couple plays.
Yeah,
he was limping badly.
Yeah, and a guy that is still considered a first-round pick. One of the best receivers in the country. So it just you saw all the pro athletes were like, Jalen, like step out. Like, there's no harm. You're just nobody's gonna think anything less of you. And he already.
It'd be interesting to see where Devontae Smith goes.
It is, because the only knock on Devontae Smith is he's pretty frail, and he gets dinged up a little bit, as he did in the championship game. I know it was a finger and not a knee, but as people point out, like, it's not just the defensive backs are bigger and hit harder, but the linebackers hit wide receivers too. And
if the Jets and your new coach believes in Sam Darnold, do you take him at number 2?
I think because I have 2 first-round picks, depending on what I think of my offensive line, I'm either grabbing Penny Swell out of Oregon, just take the best tackle on the board, bar none, and help protect Sam Darnold, and then go wide receiver later in the draft. Or I'm probably going to move down, if somebody wants to move up for Smith, if I'm not moving down too far. So, you still have Jamar Chase. You do have his teammate Waddle. You got the kid out of Minnesota. I think there's like 6 or 7 first-round grade wide receivers. And I think Smith is special, and he can definitely be special. But I do have injury concerns with him, And when you're the team like the Jets and you're that far removed from what you need to be, if I'm the Jets and I keep Sam Darnold, I'm going to pay Juju Smith-Schuster to come be his security blanket, unite those guys back together. I've still got Jameson Crowder, and I bring in another first-round guy, maybe a later guy, and I think I've got a pretty good receiver core, even if it's not Devontae Smith.
All right, everybody, that's just a little sneak preview for you. We will be talking. Jason loves the draft. We will be talking draft on and off over the next couple months till it happens.
Yeah, and then we'll have a draft special most likely because it's the draft. Who doesn't love the draft?
Well, I have an entertainment moment I want to share with our listeners.
Okay.
On Amazon Prime, there's a movie it's based on a Broadway play called One Night in Miami. And it's all 4 of these people were in Miami on this particular night, but the movie is actually a fictional account of what might have happened that night. And the the players were Muhammad Ali, who fought in Miami that night, and it was what happened after the fight. And Jim Brown was at the fight, and Sam Cooke was at the fight, and Malcolm X was at the fight. And then they all got together afterwards, and that's the story. And I would tell you, it's a phenomenal story, really well done. And I think it's Leslie Odom Jr. plays Sam Cooke. And if you ever heard Sam Cooke sing and you close your eyes, you'll swear it's Sam Cooke singing. He's that good. So I give it huge props. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, go. If you're an Amazon subscriber, buy it. I mean, it's free if you're Amazon Prime. It's well worth the time. It's very well done.
Okay.
Now, I learned today that this, Jason and I have been fans of the Harry Bosch series on Amazon Prime. And the last season 7, will be released later this spring, probably in April. And I learned today that Michael Connelly is switching over to Netflix, and he's going to have a series on the Lincoln Lawyer. He's going to bring that to a series just like he did with Bosch. And I told Jason offline that one of the things that I was really moved by was that they knew this was going to be the last series of the last season of Bosch, and Michael Connelly, the author who created Bosch, said that because we knew it was going to be the end, we could actually write an ending. And he said there's something so satisfying to be able to have to write an ending for a character. And so he's all excited about it. So I'm really excited to see that when it comes out. So I would tell everybody to watch Bosch, and you've got plenty of time if you've never watched it before to watch seasons 1 through 6.
Yes.
And you'll blow through. I usually blow through the whole series in 2 days because it's that good. And it's filmed in LA, and you see real LA. And the Lincoln Lawyer is also going to be in LA. And the Lincoln Lawyer, remember, his office is in Lincoln.
Exactly.
So you'd be moving all through LA, and you get to see a lot of it. But I was really, really excited about that. So those are my entertainment moments.
I have 2, and they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. First is, I think I've already brought it up before, but Letterkenny, the Canadian comedy, is back with a new season on Hulu, season 9. Each season's only like 7 episodes, so they're pretty short. But I would say this, if you're new to Letterkenny, it's very Canadian, and it has a certain cadence that a lot of shows don't have. And I think if you're entertained at all, like, keep watching, because it's a show that once you understand the moves and the cadence of the show, and part of it's just the Canadian dialect, but a lot of it is just the way that the show is written. If you enjoy any little bit of it, just keep watching, because you're going to fall in love with that show. And the other show, just because we're big true crime people in our house, we watched the Richard Ramirez, The Night Stalker, 4-part documentary that just came out on Netflix. And I knew of this person. I didn't know much about him, but it's another just, crazy, crazy case. And I will say, as someone that watches and listens to a lot of true crime, this is told a lot from the perspective of the police for once. And it seems to be maybe paints the police actually in a very positive light for once in these true crime documentaries. I mean, obviously the guy gets away with a lot of stuff and does a lot of stuff, but it's, it's well done. And again, I didn't know anything about him.
He lose capture for how many years?
He was only on the loose for 167 days. But in that time, he did a lot of stuff.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that it took him a long time to find.
No, that was the East Area rapist who also did very similar crimes. He was also working in Southern California to Northern California at the same time. That they did that they just identified with the Patton Oswalt's ex-wife or passed on wife. So they had very similar MOs as far as breaking in, doing something to the husband, attacking the female, feeling comfortable hanging out in the house, eating food, being a weirdo. So, but again, it's a very well done crime documentary, so if you're into that, it's right there for you.
Okay, any food this week for you?
Sadly, no. We've worked a ton of hours on set this week, so there just hasn't been anything outside of on set food, and there's nothing that I would really report as far as that goes. So,
nothing good on set food this week?
Nothing all that exciting. We ate some pretty healthy food. The new caterers we have this year, it's great because, and again, this isn't a knock on catering in general, but oftentimes caterers are worried about feeding 300 people. These caterers seem like they're worried about impressing 300 people. So, and I think just based on our cast, we have a lot of gluten-free, a lot of vegan food. And, it's very good food. It's good quality. But sometimes, rather than just giving us a steamed broccoli, they put like 6 different things to the broccoli to try to make it exciting. And, sometimes you just want a nice plain broccoli. Would be my only critique. And unlike bands, like when they make something really good and people compliment them, they're sort of like, they don't want to play the hits. They always want to do something new every day. And, sometimes you want to hear, just all the hits. Then you go see the band. You don't want to hear the new album.
Well, my food moment is a new Italian grocery deli called Muscella's that opened up in Wesley Chapel here in Tampa. And the people are from Boston, and they went to Mazzaro's in St. Pete, and they thought they would create their version of Mazzaro's. Now, it's much smaller than Mazzaro's, but everything we bought was very good. So if you're in the Tampa area, it's on Old Post Oak Road in Wesley Chapel. It's definitely worth a drive.
Okay.
Good service, a lot of variety, a lot of to-go products. So check it out. But sadly to say, until I get my second COVID shot, I'm not ready to go restauranting yet, even though my favorite restaurants are open again. So I'm just waiting till after I have the shot and then let the shot work in my body for a couple of weeks.
And again, nothing wrong with takeout, delivery, great options.
Yeah, for sure.
I did get excellent service. On Friday night, we just I got home late. I missed lunch at work, so we got a pizza, and the pizza was not good. And the pizza place was essentially, we picked the pizza place based on the number of minutes it would take to get to our house. And it turns out they forgot to put our order in somehow. So it took extra long. But our driver, so somebody, I'm not going to name their personal information, but our driver was fantastic. I actually texted and said, look, they forgot to put the order in, but don't worry. I'm not going to stop doing your order. I'll sit here for another 20 minutes and wait. And then brought it right to the house, which, I know that cost them money. So obviously we tipped them a little bit more, but just a shout out to good service in general when it happens.
Yeah, and remember, people, if you're getting takeout or you're going to a restaurant, whatever you do, over tip because people struggled. And if you have the capability of over tipping, it's a nice gesture to do.
It really is. And I know a lot of people are struggling, so they can't, but if you were in that position, please do. Yeah. And, because those restaurants desperately, desperately need it.
Last thing, we've got an inauguration on Wednesday. We're turning the page. Let's respect the change in command. Let's support the change in command. And even if you didn't vote for him, if you don't agree, at least give the guy a chance to do the job the way the job should have been done for the last 4 years. Give a guy a chance. You don't like him, then don't vote for him the next time. But go into it with more of an open mind than I think a lot of people have. Give him a shot.
And just open mind in general across the,
Yes.
We have these new people.
Open mind. Don't be as opinionated as we've been for 4 years. Be kind.
And even if you post a story about exercise, something innocuous and simple, I'll take it to the much more microcosmic level. Before you post, whether it's wine is good for you, wine is better than exercise, maybe do a little Googling before you post anything. Make sure you're posting well-researched information on any sort of science or fad or anything else, Don't just throw it out there because you like the way it sounded.
Yeah, don't perpetuate somebody else's BS.
Yeah. Just, you've got the entire internet, and I know it's full of a lot of crap, but, go to a diverse amount of, 3 or 4 sites that sort of disagree, and if they all seem to think that, wine is better for you than exercise, then go ahead and post it. But we know it's not, so don't post that crap. Yeah. And as we reach 200, we couldn't keep the show going without our Patreon supporters. We're
very grateful.
Very grateful because it's not free to post stuff online, and we really, really enjoy all you guys. And like I said, we'd like more, participation on your end if you want, whether it be through, tweeting at my dad or sending questions or, if you're a Patreon supporter and you want to come on the show, message us and we'll get you on the show.
Yeah. Oh, let me go back Sean last week,
We did.
and Sean was curious about our take on, I guess I would call it favored nation status, how it always happens that the same teams and the same schools get all the publicity. And, I agree with you, Sean. I mean, it's not right. I mean, having been an Oklahoma State fan my whole life, I was kind of shocked when Barry Sanders won the Heisman. But I see your point about who the Heisman candidates are. Do we overlook people? Absolutely, we do. I don't think people get a fair shake, and we've said that all along about college football playoff.
Yeah.
People making the rules, and the rules benefit those people who have the opportunity to make the rules, and they hurt the people who don't have a voice and who don't have a podium to be able to present their argument. And hopefully, that's going to change.
Hopefully.
I'm more optimistic of it changing, but not for the right reasons. It won't change for the right reasons. It'll change for money reasons.
Yes.
And it'll change when we have 6 teams or 8 teams just because it's more profitable to do. But by being more profitable, it will let other teams in, and it will give you some more exposure for your teams. And hopefully this will be a positive. So that's all I can say, Sean. We really thank you for your email.
Definitely. And I think, outside of that, that's about it. It's not over yet. So, keep wearing those masks and stay safe and all that good stuff.
All right. Enjoy the games, and we'll have the conference championship games next week to talk about. And as we get closer to the Super Bowl.